Coming up tonight, it was the first full day of the special session. If you ask some lawmakers, it didn't feel like a full day. We have the latest on several key issues tonight. Plus, the city of College Station focused on the green tonight, a new budget. We find out how much was approved. Your Krhd News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
New tonight, prosecutors have charged 29-year-old Teresa Balboa with capital murder. Here's video of her in May asking people to help find the child. She's accused of killing her boyfriend's 5-year-old son in Houston. Prosecutors add she put his body in a tote and hid it in a storage locker. Her next court date is on Monday. 2 others were charged in connection with the child's death. Today was the first full day of the special session, but if you ask lawmakers, it didn't feel like it. The session ended for the day after an hour. One of Governor Abbott's agenda items is bail bond reform and who can be denied bail and why. 25 News reporter Austin Walker has the latest from the Capitol tonight.
After passing in the House but failing in the Senate, the bail bond bill is back again with the goal of reaching Governor Greg Abbott's desk. The bill is designed to give judges and justices the ability to deny bail for people charged with violent crimes.
Any kind of obviously death or robbery, aggravated robbery, sexual abuse, human trafficking.
Republicans say this bill would ensure safety for community members, but on the flip side, some Democrats speak out, calling this bill, quote, inhumane. One person I spoke with today who didn't want to be on camera says, quote, this bill will further break the prison system and incarcerate more potentially innocent people. As for law enforcement, it's on the other side of the coin.
It must be done.
Parnell McNamara, McLennan County Sheriff, says dangerous individuals need to be removed off the street.
It's like opening the gate on Saturday at the zoo and you open the gate to the tiger cage. And you just hope nothing bad happens, but it's going to.
As the doors shut on day one of the legislative special session, Texans wonder if this bill will once again fail or will it land on the governor's desk.
As of right now, House Bill 3979 will go into effect on September 1st. However, it's on the agenda this special session because Governor Abbott says he would like legislators to take another look and refine the bill to completely abolish critical race theory in Texas. No surprise, this bill has strong opinions on both sides of the aisle. Some scholars say critical race theory has very complex subject matters that many don't really understand.
There's a bit of a fear tactic going on where it's teaching children to about revolution or it's Marxist. That's a misunderstanding of the origins of the theory.
But what is critical race theory? It's the idea that race is the social construct and racism is not only a product of individual bias or prejudice, but that it is present in our legal systems today. Lawmakers set out to build trust with voters with a few changes to keep Texas out of hot water in the years to come. Finding common ground, the Democrats are providing difficult Democrats' end of the session by walking out on this bill because they didn't like some of the changes, like doing away with a 24-hour voting center or drive-through voting. Representative Doc Anderson of Waco says he favors the bill because it creates a level playing field.
With this legislation, it'll be uniform at every polling place across the entire state. So everybody know the rules, everybody can follow the rules, it'll be simple. And we also wanted to make sure on the voting machines that they're tested before and afterwards.
That uniformity of elections across the state seems appealing to a lot of people. Some hope that will help ensure this bill's passage at the Texas Capitol. The Texas gubernatorial election is next year, but several Republicans have announced their plans to unseat Governor Greg Abbott. But is the governor ready for a fight? Abbott's campaign announced it has $55 million ready for the election, with nearly $19 million of that raised during the last 10 days of June. $17.5 million of that came from within the Lone Star State, according to his team. The campaign added it had 17,000 contributions from all 50 states.
An unexpected change in the most recent unemployment figures. New filings rose slightly last week, but the number of ongoing claims continue to drop. Some 3.3 million Americans are currently getting unemployment benefits, which is still higher than pre-pandemic. Now, what is worth noting is that ongoing claims for unemployment assistance continue to drop in about half the states that ended the expanded federal weekly benefits early, which includes Mississippi, one of the first 4 states to drop that extra $300 a week almost a month ago now.
Not only did we send notices out to them about the program being phased out, but we also made personal phone calls, reaching out to them and offering assistance and letting them know that there were jobs available within a certain radius.
Mississippi had a robust plan in place to help residents get back to work, making calls to people still getting unemployment benefits and to employers about job postings. Now, they were seeing steady declines in weekly payable claims prior to ending the benefits. Pre-pandemic, they were just under 7,000 weekly claims. At the peak of the pandemic, it peaked at more than 300,000. Now, when you look at the week prior to June 12th, just before the federal benefits stopped, it was about 90,000 compared to about 15,000 that are still eligible right now. A large number were self-employed or gig workers that no longer qualify.
So I would think that knowing the sense of urgency, I have to find some work somewhere because the unemployment is going to run out, would be a driving factor, a motivating factor to look to find something if it's nothing other than the part-time work.
Job postings are also up in Mississippi, far more than those getting employment assistance, but matching the two isn't that simple. Although many employers are willing to train people with no prior experience, job location and education still play a big role.
And one of the things I've heard from the employer community is that, as long as people have some soft skills, which, you would think would be the least of their concerns.
Now, according to the most recent monthly data available, Mississippi's unemployment rate is still just slightly higher than the national average of almost 6%, but it is lower than 2 other remaining states set to end federal benefits later this month. Now, next in the lineup, states are starting to see big settlement checks from tobacco companies, but only a small portion of it is going towards smoking prevention efforts. We will take a look at what the rest of the money is being used for.
It's a city with a plan. The city of College Station is hoping the city council will approve its proposed budget. We have the latest from City Hall next.
Governor Greg Abbott called the Texas legislature back for a special session to tackle some unfinished business.
This critical race theory is designed to separate people.
And 25 News was there in Austin, bringing you all the sights and sounds from the Capitol.
This is history, and we must accept history so that we can move forward.
25 News, connecting you to state leaders as they make decisions that impact you.
Well, it's a topic that might make your head spin: budgeting. The city of College Station released their proposed budget for the next fiscal year. KRHD News reporter Rachel Espaillat shares the city's plans.
Tonight's city council meeting in College Station was focused on budget as the city manager formally presented this proposal to council members.
We took a thoughtful approach to make sure that we planned on a bounce back, but we're not sky high.
We had done a lot of things this last year to try to prepare ourselves to be in the best financial position possible, and we think we were successful at doing that.
A financially conservative approach helped the economy remain stable despite still recovering from the pandemic and dealing with setbacks caused by the record-breaking winter storm. The city is working with a $354 million budget, showing its stride towards normalcy.
Last year, we were facing, what is a global pandemic and how is that going to affect everybody? We have a better sense of how things at A&M are going to happen.
The hotel tax fund took a major hit, but is expected to return to normal when Texas A&M events come back. The hiring freeze has been lifted, even adding some more positions and working back in additional expenses for traveling and training.
There is still some uncertainty with that, and so trying to make sure that we maintain healthy reserves in our budget and still work to address some of the key needs.
All tax rates are proposed to stay the same. In College Station, Rachel Espaillat, KRHD News.
Well, we've been tracking showers and thunderstorms this evening across the Brazos Valley as tropical rains continue to move on over. You can thank the same system producing the very heavy rainfall along the coastline that's going to be producing showers as we go through the night tonight. Radar showing you some of those showers that are out there currently. The heaviest rains have been down there towards Corpus Christi, back over towards Rockport, Fulton, and also towards Port Lavaca. All of that still moving over, so we're going to keep the rain chances kind of on the high side overnight and into tomorrow. Let's talk about what it's going to look like on Future Track as we continue through the evening, because you'll see those showers, those thunderstorms continue to lift up through. Here we are at about 10:30, so the next 30 minutes should still be dealing with them, but notice this activity stays with us through the overnight hours. Now, it won't rain each minute of the overnight, but we will see passing showers at times, some of which could have some heavy downpours. That continuing into tomorrow morning and through the day tomorrow. Future Track's trying to bring dry air south into our area. I think it's going to be a little bit slower than that, so we'll keep those spotty rain chances at least spotty rain chances through the afternoon. I think we'll still be dealing with some of those tropical rains at times. Here's the good news, though. By Saturday, that dry air does make it, and that should limit the coverage down to around a 20 to 30% during the day on Saturday. More rain chances are on the way into Sunday, though. Here's Future Track on the state view, and you'll notice going through the overnight hours into Saturday, Sunday. Look at that. Things try to dry out Saturday, but by Sunday into Monday, next system tries to work in from the north. Won't make it all the way here, at least the cold front won't, but the shower thunderstorm potential will. By the time we head into the next week, though, look at that drier air starting to work back in by the middle of next week. Tonight, down into the lower 70s. Tomorrow, we're in the mid 80s. That's kind of cool. Some areas may not get out of the 70s with all the cloud cover and the rain chances around. I'm calling for a high of 80 in the Bryan College Station area, 88 Saturday, 93 on Sunday. Look at next week, though. We try to string together a couple of dry days, lower 90s on the way.
North Carolina recently became the first state to settle with Juul over claims the e-cigarette company marketed to teens. As lawsuits against e-cigarette and opioid companies continue to move forward, the 1998 settlement between states and big tobacco companies is providing a roadmap decades later. Now, with the tobacco settlement, there weren't specific safeguards or requirements put in place about how that money had to be spent.
They should perhaps pay more attention to the specifics and details and designate specific funds and specific amounts of funding and specific earmarks to prevention and cessation to really deal with it. So in 20 years plus, beyond any settlement there, they're not having similar regrets and saying we should have done it from the beginning.
A report from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids found in the 2021 fiscal year, states collected nearly $27 billion from the tobacco settlement and tobacco taxes. But they spent just 2.4% of it on tobacco prevention. Now, that's an 11% decrease from the year before and less than a fifth of the total funding recommended by the CDC. Now, with the next fiscal year starting for many states this week, anti-tobacco advocates are not hopeful that these numbers will get better, especially with the budget strains that states have been dealing with during the pandemic.
When there's a short-term budget problem in a state, it's easy to divert those funds. Unfortunately, young people, which is who we're trying to help, kids, and prevent them from smoking and becoming lifetime addicts to tobacco, are not the strong constituency that some other groups are sometimes. So states find it easy to divert the money because they're not seeing the benefits right away, perhaps.
For most states, the tobacco settlement money goes into the general fund and states spend it how they like. In some states, it's used to pay for various children's programs. Anti-tobacco advocates are worried with the number of kids using e-cigs, more of the tobacco settlement money will not go to fight this. Now, next on our lineup, scientists have a global warming fear that has nothing to do with humans. It's with animals' abilities to adapt to warming conditions. Why experts still worry about even those who adapt quicker. We are well aware of the effects of climate change, but new research is trying to answer the questions, are animals well aware? Well, Dan Grossman spoke with a researcher who found that animals change their habits to account for the planet's warmer weather, but may not be changing fast enough.
Organism responses to climate change is a pretty big deal.
Where most might find uncertainty unnerving.
And so I think what's exciting is we don't really know on balance which of those it is. for really any organisms at this point.
Michael Dillon finds it particularly stimulating.
We really haven't looked into it much. So we got really excited about saying, hey, this is something that we should be looking at as scientists.
The question he poses is in regard to animals, like these birds, and how they adapt to climate change. And what he has found is what you might expect from an associate professor of zoology and physiology.
Yeah, I hate to give you the typical scientist answer, but I just don't know.
But there are theories. Michael recently helped write a paper that looks at how animals in our world adapt to changing conditions in our environment. He found that the ways birds construct their nests, spiders construct their webs, and termites construct their tunnels change based on the weather they experience. In some cases, animals have shifted their breeding habits to match earlier springs, but it comes at a consequence.
They really only do that in response to the initial conditions they face. So when they first arrive to nest somewhere, even though temperatures change through the season, if they go to build nests again, they still respond as if they're responding to the initial conditions.
The fear is not all animals adapt this way, or that some animals might not adapt fast enough. A study published in Nature Communications in 2019 found that in the last 50 years, birds have laid their eggs about 2 weeks earlier than before, but that still lags behind the pace at which the caterpillars they prey on have changed their mating habits. If the birds don't catch up, those eggs might hatch after the caterpillars have evolved and they could starve.
You know, we call it plasticity, but you might think of it as sort of flexibility in behaviors, the degree to which organisms, animals in particular, change what they're doing in response to the local conditions they experience. You know, animals are small relative to the scales at which we measure climate.
Think of what we do as humans. We raise homes along the beach to avoid flooding. We build grasslands and dunes to prevent the creeping tides of severe weather. Animals do the same. The question is, are they doing it fast enough? I'm Dan Grossman.
2021 is a year of comebacks, but few businesses saw bigger extremes between last year and this year than the ones that deal with summer and vacations. Forrest Sanders reports on the return of so much that we had to miss in 2020.
What makes for a perfect summer vacation? Is it saltwater breezes stretching out under palm trees in summer sun, dinner from a grill drizzled in lemon? Whatever it is, the closest most of us came to this in 2020 was in the old vacation pictures on the refrigerator. The pandemic brought a tough year for those who love to travel, and an even tougher year for those whose whole livelihood is based around vacations. Terry Lynn McQuiston is a one-woman show, a swimsuit creator propelled to do this from fandom of a certain brash feminist anthem-singing pop icon frontwoman and recent newlywed.
I'm inspired by Gwen Stefani and No Doubt and everything SoCal. She's bold, non-apologetic, and she's a mom too. I'm just a girl in Nashville, so I just decided to make something that everybody looks good in.
Handling it all with a sewing machine in her room, living the simple kind of life. Terry Lynn's brand is even named after her. No Doubt, Album 5, Track 2.
Hella TL is kind of a play on No Doubt's song Hella Good. And I can't see myself not doing this. I guess you can say it's a dream.
But when people started canceling their 2020 plans for a sweet escape, there came a hard year for Terry Lynn.
2020 was pretty scary. Nobody was traveling.
In fact, according to market research company the NPD Group, the travel accessories market nationally took a $1.8 billion loss in 2020.
I had been working as a pattern maker for a corporation. They had a mass layoff, and I was one of the casualties.
So, like a certain famous frontwoman, Terry Lynn went solo, focusing all her time on her own brand.
I kept thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's gonna get better.
And it did. 2021 is seeing a surge in people packing up their teas, sunscreen, shades, and some nice beach reading. With the NPD Group reporting luggage sales are back to 80% of their 2019 levels. As vaccinations got underway, spending on airlines, hotels, and online travel agencies leapt up 90% between just February and March of this year. But the best news belongs to Terry Lynn.
Swimsuit sales are up 185% over 2020. They're even up 32% over 2019.
I have more than tripled my sales from 2020. People are starting to get out, they've been vaccinated. There is nothing like having that feeling like, I can do this, I can make this work.
Terry Lynn says 2020 brought lessons. Don't speak negativity. There will be a way to reinvent and return. No doubt. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Forrest Sanders.
All right, Forrest, thank you. And finally, in our lineup, the changing factors when it comes to considering where to retire in the areas you may not have considered before that are now more affordable than the national average. When you think of retirement, you probably think of warm weather and white beaches, but you might want to reconsider Florida if stretching your dollar is most important. In fact, Georgia outranked the Sunshine State for the best places to retire, in part because it's cheaper to live there. Tennessee, Missouri, and Massachusetts round out the top 5 according to Bankrate.
It's just becoming a victim of its own success. For decades, retirees came to Florida because there were wide open spaces. There were a ton of new communities being built. There was a lot of available land for builders to build on. And that's really not the case anymore.
In fact, Jeff Ostrowski pointed out that the median home price in the Atlanta metro area is about $279,000. That's below the national average and well below what homes near the Orlando area are going for these days. Other factors that come into play when determining the best places to retire are wellness, which includes things like public health, food security, and access to medical care, culture, which is how many people 65 and older live in the area, plus things like restaurants and entertainment, crime, and weather, which also could be a setback.
We had been upgrading states for high temperatures, so Hawaii and Florida ranked number 1 in weather. But then when I added in things like hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes, Florida didn't do so well.
The latest findings were based on data pre-pandemic. One thing is clear through housing market data: the suburbs and long distance moves are back. Now, many school districts across the country are rethinking summer school lessons because of the social and emotional issues that many students faced during the pandemic.
The biggest thing that a lot of schools are making a push for is that you can't necessarily educate a student if they're not in the mental state to learn anything.
Tomorrow, how educators are changing summer school to help get students better prepared for the classroom in the fall.
Well, summer sports are heating up in the Brazos Valley, and after a short break, WTAW's Zach Taylor is back here tonight with our sportscast.
Here's your 25 Sports Update with WTAW's Zach Taylor.
Hey KRHD viewers, the Japanese Prime Minister has announced a state of emergency due to the country's rising COVID-19 cases. That means that no fans will be allowed in the stands when the Tokyo Olympic Games kick off on July 23rd. The Oakland Athletics scored 2 runs in the top of the first inning and never looked back en route to a 2-1 victory over the Houston Astros this afternoon at Minute Maid. Now, despite the loss, the Stros still hold on to a 4.5-game lead in the American League West. By the way, stars Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa say they will not be participating in this year's All-Star Game. Teammates Michael Brantley and Ryan Presley are still planning on attending as of now. It'll be Ash Barty and Karolina Pliskova in the Wimbledon Finals. Barty defeated Angelique Kerber earlier today, while Pliskova rallied past Aryna Sabalenka. From the WTAW Sports Studio, I'm Zach Taylor.
Jimmy Kimmel is up next. Good Morning Texas is on the air tomorrow at 5 a.m. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.